Hey, this is Jess with Canine Perspective, and this is a video of a little project that I took in. This is Buck, formerly known as Rerun, who I picked up from Sioux City, Iowa, from the Humane Society. The reason why he's named Rerun is because ever since he was a puppy, he wouldn't bond or come to anybody. He was very antisocial. From what I remember, the family picked him up from a breeder at 2 months. They had him for 6 months. They couldn't get him to come out the kennel. He kept running back in. He wouldn't accept food. He was very evasive of the family. Took him to the Humane Society because he wouldn't bond with anybody. He was there for a little while. Another family picked him up, had him for a couple of months, and experienced the same problems, and then took him back. So the Humane Society just decided to call him Rerun. A lot of them were attributing this to abuse, and I don't see this as being an abuse case. He was just born this way, and since nobody made him do what he was uncomfortable with as a puppy, touching him, making him come out, making him stay out of the kennel, he just stayed that way, and his behavior was reinforced just by letting him stay in the kennel and not making him do what he felt uncomfortable with, because of course he was exhibiting fearful behavior, nervous behavior and stuff like that. No aggression from him. His response is to go into flight or to shut down. So I drove over to Sioux City from Chicago to take him in, and excuse any noise you hear in the background right now because that's Buck chewing on a bone. We renamed Rerun as Buck to give him a new start, and this is him on his first day in the home. And you can see he's very stressed out. As I move around him, you can see him duck his head. And right now I'm going to approach him, and he is just going to completely shut down. Now, in the first clip of him, you saw me, I was at a distance of 20 feet away, and he was already getting very nervous. He couldn't handle that pressure because he didn't know and didn't trust me. But also the woman was using a lot of high tone, very excited tone of voice to kind of get him to come out. It's not good for them. Best thing to do is just to be very quiet, very calm, and to essentially ignore them and just do what you need to do with them. So here, I'm not paying him any mind. I did a few light touches just to make sure that he wasn't going to, come after me or anything like that. But you can see that he wants to be affectionate. He gave me a couple of licks of the knee, but then immediately turns away. That's just his nerves. He wants to bond, but he just can't do it. He's just too nervous to do it himself. So I run him through a couple of exercises. This was all e-collar because this is strictly mental. I'm not food. If I were to make him come to me by pulling or approaching him and try to give him food, he's not going to take it because his nerves and the stress is too high. So I have to mentally make him overcome his fears. And this is the very first moment I put the e-collar and then make him start doing what he doesn't want to do, which is to come into me, right? So here, I'm not physically reeling him in. He's actually coming in on his own. I'm just taking in the leash as he comes so that it doesn't get tangled up all over the place. So here, he comes to me. You can see him licking his lips from the stress. He comes more towards my back and away from me, but he actually initiates some contact with me on his own, which is great. Here, I'm just going back and forth, and I'm using the collar to kind of teach him that moving away from me is bad and coming into me is good, right? So when he comes into me, there's no physical consequence to him, and I'm playing this very, very low. I'm between the levels of 5 and 9, and every time he comes into me, I, of course, pet very calmly. No sound is being used. I'm not telling him to come to me. I'm not calling him. I'm not saying his name. It's just teaching him what the collar means. Now, right now, just a second ago, you saw him give a little jump. So initially, I'm on, I think I was about 9, and his state of mind is overriding the touch from the collar. Once the state of mind starts to calm down, he becomes much more susceptible to touch, and you're going to see him kind of jump around a little bit. That's not because it's too high. It's just now he's starting to feel the collar at the level that he should feel it at. So a normal dog would right away feel this and then start responding. But as I'm making him come into me, the avoidance behavior and the shutdown behavior, like right there, you're going to see the little jump, is starting to diminish, and his brain is now starting to process things normally. So every time I see him jump, I'm not looking to make him too skitty. I go lower and lower to a number that's going to make him come into me, but that he won't blow off. Okay, so as his brain starts to calm down, he becomes much more susceptible, and each time you see me go for the collar, I'm going down a notch every time, because this goes 0 to 100. I started off about 9, and each time I see him jump, I go down 8, 7, 6, and I think the lowest I got him to was 3 in this session. And again, him coming to my back because he's still not comfortable. And in a little while, you're going to see kind of me pushing him with no leash, because I know he understands the concept. Right? Yeah, and then I'm shutting down some more. Right? So this is all led by his nerves. This isn't, an abuse case. If he was a stable dog and if he was abused, those are the dogs that you pick up from the shelter, and they like immediately or very quickly begin to come out of their shell. This was a guy that for 6 months from the breeder would not come out of his shell. Okay, he was just born this way. So here, I'm starting to push things more with him. I'm not using the leash anymore because I know he knows what the collar means. And here he practically climbs into my lap. You can't see him on the camera, but he's jumping into me, which is great. So now he himself is consistently initiating contact with me. This is me building trust with him, and I'm very calm. I'm not using high tone of voice. And now that I know that he understands the concept of the collar, I am now just beginning to add in the word Buck, which is his name, and then a little bit of a recall. Right. So every time he hears his name or the word Buck, he knows to come into me. And when he comes into me, pressure from the e-collar goes away. You see him here with the open mouth and panting. That's him venting the stress, right? So this is the stuff that should have been done with him as a puppy. Whether or not e-collar would have been necessary, not too sure. But I would have taken him on a leash and made him come to me. I would have pulled him physically every day until he just learned that he couldn't go into avoidance or shutdown. The other thing I did with him, and you'll see in future videos, is that I tethered him to me, because his response was to move away from me. That was how he would cope with pressure from people. I would keep him tethered to me, so I was like, now you have no choice but to be around me all the time. But of course, in that time, I'm not paying any mind to him. I'm completely ignoring him and letting him kind of come out on his own during those times. And he just learned, okay, I can't avoid this guy, but of course this guy, there's nothing negative associated with him. He doesn't hit me, he doesn't yell at me or anything like that. He's always very quiet, very calm. And then in time, as he gets more and more comfortable, he would come out of his shell. Now here, he has a little bit of a relapse, and he starts to move away from me, and the collar's not making him come into me, so I'm slowly going up on that collar and making him figure out you cannot avoid me no matter how uncomfortable you are, right? And then here he goes, starts coming in, and then boom, straight to me. And then, of course, I reward with touch and affection here. And this is a very, very difficult case to rehab for nervous and skittish guys. In the home, as of now, he is great. He's very playful, very affectionate. He loves to follow me all over the home. But outside, it's still a big thing for him, because he needs a home that has continuous like human interaction and stimulation, and a lot of people coming in and out. I have a very quiet home, so this is it for the first video, and stay tuned for a couple more parts to show his progress. And this is just with Canine Perspective. Thanks for watching.